Dear students, having finished the story, Salvatore, now we shall proceed to a poem. We have a wonderful poem called The Dolphins by Carol and Duffy. First we shall have a look at the author, Carol and Duffy. Caroline Duffy was born in 1955, and she is still active. She was born in Scotland, later moved to Britain, and we would find her working in the University of Manhattan University. She was a professor of contemporary poetry at Manhattan Metropolitan University. What is contemporary poetry? I shall explain to you a little later. It's very important for us to understand the Dolphins. She was also appointed Britain's Poet Laureate in 2009. Poet Laureate. What is the meaning of Poet Laureate? It's a distinguished office in Britain. The Queen appoints someone of a great caliber, someone who is highly intellectual and good at their work, is appointed as Poet Laureate, and they remain in office sometimes for lifetime, at times for shorter time. Some of them resign either due to ill health or something else. So these days they appoint the Poet Laureate at the recommendation of the Prime Minister. Earlier it was the Queen herself used to do. So she was appointed in 2009, and she continued to be Poet Laureate till last year. Last year, 2019, May, she resigned. Due to her personal reasons, she resigned. And now somebody else, one poet called Simon, is appointed as the Poet Laureate. So what is their work? Their work is to write poems or verses on special occasions and functions in Britain. For example, the present Poet Laureate, he wrote a poem on Corona lockdown days. So like that, special occasions and events, they'll be asked to write poetry. So she was of highly distinguished personality. And she was the first Scottish person. Somebody from Scotland, it was the first time somebody to be appointed as a Poet Laureate. And she was also the first woman to become the Poet Laureate. So we should be happy that we are able to study a poem of hers. Some of the poems of hers are very famous. She has a number of collections of poetry, and some of them won prestigious awards. She got Scottish Arts Council Award for her work Standing Female Nude collection. She got Scottish Arts Council Award. Selling Manhattan, she got Somerset Maugham Award. We just finished the story of Somerset Maugham. So it's a famous award in Britain. Meantime, for her collection, she got a Whitebread Poetry Award. And for her work collection called Rupture, she got a T.S. Eliot Prize. All four are very prestigious awards and prizes. So she has won all of them. Then we will come to the theme of the poem. Theme of the poem, Dolphins. You know, the very name itself sounds, it is something different from the normal poem because it is about the dolphins. So she wrote extensively about animals too. And the main themes are oppression and lack of freedom. Not only in dolphins, these are her popular themes, and in dolphins, these are the themes. Oppression and lack of freedom. Wherever there is oppression of human beings or oppression of animals, she would rise up to the occasion and write poems on that. So oppression and lack of freedom. Gender inequality is very, very important theme. Gender inequality. Human beings are not treated equally by the world. Men and women, they are not treated properly. And certain segregation or separation because somebody is a woman or somebody is, now these days the famous themes we have the LGBT. She is also an LGBT poet. You know that lesbians, gay, all that. All these people are suppressed because they belong to some particular sect or particular group. So some gender differences, human beings cannot be treated unequally. All should be treated equally. That's her theme. Violence. So violence to human beings and violence to animals cannot be accepted. That is another theme. And animal welfare and treatment of animals. We must take care of animals. It is our duty. It's an obligation. It's an obligation on our part, human beings, to take care of animals and look after their welfare. We must treat them with dignity. Animals should be treated with dignity. They too have a dignity of their own. So these are the main themes. Now we shall go to the dolphin. Dolphins is a dramatic monologue. It's a dramatic monologue. What is a dramatic monologue? I am sure you are familiar with this word. Last year, you studied the poem Patriot by Robert Browning. Patriot. You know, the patriot goes on the street, is welcomed. Roses, roses all the way. And later, a year after that, he is being led to the gallows to be put to death. So, the patriot speaks out his experience. That was a dramatic monologue. Just giving you an example so that you can easily understand. So that was a dramatic monologue. Robert Browning is known for his dramatic monologues. So it's a literary device. So here our poet Carol Ann Duffy, she also uses this literary device called dramatic monologue. What is a dramatic monologue? It is a narrative by an imaginative person. It is A narrative by an imaginative person. Imaginative person. A person other than the author. The person who narrates is not the author but somebody else. In the last year's poem, it was the patriarch was the narrator. Here, who is the narrator? Here the narrator is one of the dolphins. One of the dolphins. The dolphin explains or narrates its own story. So, a dramatic monologue is a narrative by a person, and while he narrates his life, unintentionally his thoughts, feelings and personality are revealed. Unintentionally, without intention. He or she only narrates. In the narration, thoughts, feelings and personality are revealed. So that is dramatic monologue. Here the dolphin explains or narrates his story, and he always says we. He says we the dolphins. That is, the narrator is not alone. It's a story of not a single dolphin. It is a story of all the dolphins who have been suppressed. All the dolphins who have been denied freedom. Therefore, the story has to be looked. The poem is explained from the perspective of a dolphin. Last day when we did Salvatore, we found that it was explained from a third person perspective. Third person perspective. That is he, she, it. Salvatore was a boy of 15 when I knew him. His father was a fisherman. So from the third person perspective. Here it is from the first person perspective. I, we. I, singular, we, plural. It is from that perspective the poem is explained. Therefore, from the perspective of dolphin, the dolphin is narrating. If you understand this idea, then you will follow the poem. Last year when I taught the poem to present 12th class students, a number of them did not enjoy it because this poem is something different from the normal poem. You have studied a number of poems or read. This poem will be quite different. Why they are different? It is because it is a contemporary poem. I will come to that a little later. Before that, one more idea. What is the main theme? So what is the main theme in Dolphins? Previous life of freedom and bliss is compared to present life of confinement. It's a contrast. There's a contrasting done. What is a contrast? Two things are brought into light and you are comparing one thing to the other. A contrast is drawn between the past and present. The blissful life they had, dolphins had, in the past in the sea. Now, the dreadful life they are having in the pool, in the artificial setup made by the human beings. Therefore, the previous life of freedom and blessing is compared with the present life of confinement. What is confinement? Enslavement. Imprisonment or enslavement is confinement, where there is no freedom. So that is the main theme. Now I will just explain to you what is contemporary poem. The present poem Dolphins is also a contemporary poem, and I told you Carroll and Duffy was professor of contemporary poetry. Contemporary poetry is poetry of the recent times. Some say from poetry from 1920 onwards. Some others say 1950 onwards. Whatever it may be, the modern times poetry, which are little different from the classical poetry. That's what the meaning of contemporary poetry. So they are also called free verse. Free verse. I have written in capital, free verse. Verse means poetry. So free poems. So these poems are written in a free style. They are not getting stuck to the old standard things. There's a breakthrough. There's a breakthrough in the style. So they have a freedom. They take a lot of freedom. How? The standard meter is not there. The rhyme pattern is not there. Music is not there. There may be a meter, there may be a rhyme, there may be music, but they are not keeping in touch with the standards set by classical poetry. So they have a freedom from these. What do they have then? Other than that, what is that makes it modern poetry? It is the poetic devices used. Poetic devices they are using. What are they? Like imagery and metaphors. Imagery is very, very important. What is an imagery? Some of you have some idea about imageries. Imageries are some images, emojis. You are familiar with so many emojis you use in your cell phone. So emojis. Emojis are pictures that represent your feelings and emotions. Are different images that will easily convey your feelings, emotions, etc. So like that, there are images, certain images are used. They are symbols. They stand for something much greater and higher. So, use of imageries are very much there. Only when you know the images and you analyze them, you will understand the poems easily. Then there is heightened use of metaphors. Heightened use of metaphors. Plenty of metaphors are used. Metaphors like so let's say figures of speech. Instead of metaphor is used. Metaphor is a figure of speech. So lot of figures of speeches are used. So poetic devices like imageries and figures of speech, you can say. Figures of speech like metaphors, similes, alliteration, and many other metaphors, they make use of it. So that is the speciality of contemporary poems. We shall go into the poem tomorrow. In detail we shall see the poem. Today just want to introduce the author and the poem. We have seen the main theme and also some idea what is dramatic monologue and what is the meaning of contemporary poem. As homework, please read up the introduction given in your textbook as well as introduction given in your workbook. Thank you.